in San Francisco on this very powerful convergence of the Sun and Mercury joining up in Pisces, one of my favorite signs. And we are, yes, we're still in the Mercury retrograde, but today's a very special day. It's about halfway through the retrograde phase, and it's the Sun and Mercury are what are called Cazimi, meaning they're like in this exact kind of magical merger, which some people feel is like you get this invitation to ask the Sun, the king, for anything you want. That's kind of one of the legends of it. Or, you know, it's a powerful day to set intentions. Some people feel it's kind of like the grace period of some of the difficulties of Mercury retrograde, or the setbacks, or the perhaps some of the communication challenges that you've had. Suddenly, like, there's a little bit of a reprieve today, which certainly after yesterday, which, okay, I'm making this on Thursday, the what's the date? I think it's the 15th of March. No, 14th of March. So yesterday, of course, the 13th was a very challenging day. Like, social media was down, and I was actually giving a talk at the Wing here in San Francisco, and they were asking me about, you know, to talk about what you can and cannot blame Mercury retrograde for. And of all days, I was trying to make the case for not blaming Mercury for certain things, and of course, that was a difficult case to make on a day when everything was going down. Sadly, even the planes and the social media, like, nothing was operating, everything was malfunctioning, which is very classic what you blame on Mercury retrograde. So anyway, that was kind of the irony, and Mercury certainly has a good sense of humor. So, but we did talk about the magical side of Mercury retrograde, which I also really want to emphasize, and how to work with this particular Mercury retrograde in Pisces rather than dreading it. How can you work with it to your magical benefit? Because it's a very magical period, which I don't think gets emphasized enough. And it's so funny, even I saw an article came out in the New York Times today about Mercury retrograde, and they actually said Mercury's in retrograde, which I also was telling everyone, stop saying it's not in retrograde. It's not like a place, because then everyone's like, Mercury's in Gatorade, and, you know, people just get off on that whole joke. So it's in retrograde. I mean, it's Mercury's retrograde. It's not in retrograde, like a place. Like, it's not like a destination or something. So I don't know. There's all kinds of, that itself is a retrograde kind of phenomenon, like not getting the jargon correct. So anyway, back to the magic and the potential and the usefulness of Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So two things. One, why do we have a tendency to freak out when Mercury goes retrograde? I'm saying it now too. When Mercury goes retrograde, why does everybody panic? Because we're so used to things just moving smoothly, efficiently, and without a glitch. I mean, we're not used to that, but it's like an expectation now, especially with high speed everything. We want everything to move at high speed without stalling or glitching. And when we hit these snags, which then we like to blame on Mercury retrograde, instead of looking at it, like even yesterday, social media going down, people were panicking, like, I can't post my live video or my updates or, you know, my stories or whatever. Instead of like, oh, you know what, now you can go out and enjoy the fact that it stopped raining in San Francisco and there's a beautiful sunny day, you know, like just waiting for you to get off your gadgets and enjoy. So we could also look at the benefit that way. But most importantly, and most specifically for this Mercury retrograde, I would say, since he's in Pisces, we're being asked to really go into our dream life, our dream time, our soul time. And that can mean, like, actually checking out from a lot of, I don't know, all the like hustle and the hustling and like trying to stay on top of our game and all of that pressure we have to constantly be like efficient. And of course that has its value, and we need to do that in order to get some momentum going in our business and to succeed in certain ways. But what about the soul time? I feel like the Pisces season, especially Mercury retrograde in Pisces, is asking us to balance this with, what does your soul really need? You know, what does the soul require right now? And are we listening to our soul, or are we still trying to push against a part of us that's saying slow down, rest, focus inward, and pay attention to what's happening with your symbolic realm. Mercury in Pisces speaks in symbols, not facts and figures and direct, articulate language. Often it's even difficult to make a video in some ways because it's not a linear, I mean, the Mercury in Pisces tends to be a little bit like seaweed, kind of wrapped around many different themes and topics, and it's more like a song, you know. It's not necessarily following a logical trajectory. It's more about stream of consciousness, I say. So it's a great time for writing song lyrics, stream of consciousness, paying attention to songs that show up in your life, symbols that show up in your dreams, and actually making the time for dreams, which I was also making a big case for in my last video. And that reminds me, I want to invite you all to, I'm going to be doing a special online dream seminar for the next time that the moon is going to have an opposition with Neptune, which is going to be on the 19th of March. So there'll be details up on my website about that. It's going to be, you can join it from anywhere, and I'll record it. It's going to be a live class, and I'll have the recording for download after. So I hope you will join me so that you can really work with your dreams. I want to give you tips and techniques and decoding tools, because a lot of people have been asking me for that. We'll go more in depth than I've been able to do in the videos. So anyway, getting back to Mercury retrograde in Pisces, I think it's important to really pay attention to the feelings, even if they're subtle, like even symptoms in the body often that are merged with specific feelings can give you an indication of what's going on in the unconscious. You know, sometimes people will notice they have like certain physical reaction to something, and that is your body, that is your soul, that is your subtle body trying to communicate with you often. Like, for instance, wherever you have like blocked energy, like if you have to clear your throat all the time, there's probably something you need to say or get off your chest, or if you have like congestion in the chest, or if your stomach is growling or doing like you having strange things with your stomach or digestion, often that can be an emotional, like an undigested emotional issue. If we tend to carry a lot of stress in our shoulders, we're probably carrying some kind of burden that we want to unburden ourselves from. So these are all important things to really, pay attention to, like what the body's trying to communicate to you during Pisces time, because there's a really powerful connection actually between Pisces and Virgo. Virgo is the physical embodiment of the Pisces, of the unconscious. So that's one way to kind of track the unconscious, is to watch what's happening in the physical body and in the subtle body. So little seemingly subtle energetic changes that are trying to communicate with you. Other Mercury and Pisces things, so definitely, like I said, paying attention to dreams. Giving yourself time to just intentionally space out is also really important, meaning unstructured time. So obviously in the real world, what we call the real world, we can't have a completely unstructured schedule, although I wish if everyone could just follow, the rhythms of the planets and the stars and the moon, this would be the month where we should all just be taking as much time to sleep, dream, paint, draw, and float in the ocean or in our Epsom salt baths as possible, because our minds are not wanting to focus on tasky task things. Our minds, our souls want to really dwell and immerse and float and drift and dream in the unconscious waters, in the more mystical, mythical space of inspiration and feeling. And sometimes in order to get that, I know like when I have to be really focused, but I need, my soul's dying for that soul time or dream time, I have to just put music on and go for a walk. Like I have to just kind of immerse myself and take in nature, but also have music playing and walking and just kind of have a mythic experience that way. Just a mythic walk sometimes will do it for me, if that's all I can get in during the day. But I've got to have that time if I'm going to be really focused, especially now. Like I cannot skip out on soul time or meditation time or time for dancing or moving or, just very unstructured, soulful, expressive time is so key right now to feeling sane and not feeling like, otherwise we end up just spacing out and checking out. Like, when you don't have enough soul time because you don't have focus and you just want to check out. Your body will check you out anyway, and you'll just leave your body, what we call, somebody was asking me last night, at the wing about out-of-body experiences, and I said, yeah, during Pisces time, there's going to be a lot of out-of-body experiences going on, a lot of tendency to want to leave the body. So that's why we need extra sleep, and we need a feeling of being able to consciously or intentionally go into a dreamy, soulful space. We have to have that, whether that's going out into the woods or just lingering over a really beautiful meal, or, you know, watching the sunset, or painting, or writing in your journal, or watching a really great film, reading an amazing book, you know, just quality time with somebody you love, or, you know, petting your dog with complete, you know, 100% love and presence, so that it's a soulful experience, whatever that is, or with your child, or something that just brings you into soul time, you know, and ideally a little bit mythic space, you know. So of course theater does that. If you see a really good show or a live concert, or just those kind of numinous moments that are bigger than life, we need that right now. So so I said we're right in the middle of this Pisces season, but Mercury is not going to clear his shadow of this Mercury retrograde in Pisces energy in the story that's unfolding until April 15th. So we're kind of, you know, Mercury retrograde, all the retrogrades are like taking us into the underworld. So wherever Pisces is in your chart is where you're in that kind of mythic, mercurial, chemical underworld of having to go and replenish or recover or repair or reinvent some aspect of that part of your life. So look to where Pisces is, and that's where there's sort of there's a whole reorientation going on during this phase. And it's probably mythic, it's probably a little bit obscured. I mean, Pisces is the sign of obscuring illusions. It's also the sign of the divine, the sublime. So it's probably a mix of kind of like dark, obscured energy, which Pisces definitely has that kind of shadowy, like the moon archetype, as I had mentioned in a previous video, that we're dealing with. And it also has the energy of the sublime, the divine, the poetic, the mythic, the soul's longings. So this is a time to really tap into like, what is my soul really, really deeply longing for more than anything else? And do I give attention to my soul's longings, or am I just making excuses to put that off? And you'll really feel the consequences of not making soul time. We need soul time more than ever right now. Or we pay a big price. Like I said, we'll space out. We might have an accident. We might slip. Something will just try to like get our attention to say, look, you need soul time. So if nothing else, try to carve out some soul time for yourself this weekend, and especially over the next couple weeks, because then we're gonna, I mean, even next week on the 20th, we're going into the equinox, we're going into Aries season, so there's gonna be already that kind of fiery push to get back into spring forward into life, you know. I'm still adjusting to this time change. It's brutal. Even though I love the days staying longer, it just throws us off so much, that like push to like spring forward when we're still kind of coming out of that sleepy dream state of Pisces. So take advantage between now and the 20th, especially, of this Pisces energy, to pay, you know, really write down your dreams, track your dreams, track what's going on in your unconscious, track what's going on in your imagination with your feelings, and just watch for omens and symbols and metaphors as they show up in your life and give you different, perhaps a mirroring of what's going on in your unconscious, what's trying to come to consciousness. So we have to pay attention to those signs and symbols, and even the most seemingly subtle synchronicities that show up in our life are often trying to speak to us and get our attention. So the more we pay attention and we have reverence for the signs and symbols and omens that show up in our life, the more we're engaging in an active dialogue with our unconscious, and the more that these things will appear. So people that complain like, I don't remember my dreams, or I don't have any synchronicity, it's because we're probably not making the space, or we're not allowing the consciousness of reverence to permeate our approach to life in a way that we will invite that in. So that's essential. You have to have an attitude, a feeling state of reverence, an approach of reverence to yourself, to your higher self, and to your life, in order to invite that more mythic level in to communicate. And this is an amazing opportunity with Mercury retrograde in Pisces. And I just want to say one last thing. There's something beautiful about the fact that all of our retrogrades for 2019 are going to be in water signs. So the next one will be in Cancer. It starts in Leo, but it's going to retrograde back into Cancer, and in July 7th. And then the one on Halloween, October 31st, is in Scorpio. So we've got this beautiful water triplicity. So there's so much about this divine feminine energy and accessing our feeling function. We have to get in touch with our feeling function. We can't just be these like overly rationalized creatures that are trying to like put, slap logic on everything and not pay attention to the deeper emotional currents that really feed us on that deep, deep creative level. And really bring the juice to life, really give a sense of what, like the streams, the sacred streams in life. So we want to honor that right now. And it's a very, very creative time to work with your imagination. Use your imagination so it doesn't use you. And if you have a chance to reflect, meditate, write, this is an amazing opportunity to go deep into your own depths. So thanks so much for watching.